This is the type of history center that you would expect to see in a major city.
Well, I don't know if we're allowed to use Smithsonian-like, but this is a top quality museum.
You don't have to be from Pennsylvania to appreciate and be fascinated by this story. Visitors, I think, from all over the world would love to come here.
Initially, we looked at how the organization could be different in 2013. And that was a result of the economic downturn, which really saw us struggling with all of the different buildings that we had and not enough staff to do programs.
Joan Mummert, the staff, and the board began to realize that the way the History Center was organized might not have been serving us telling the public the stories as well as we could. We were split among many buildings all over town, and it was becoming a challenge for visitors to really understand how to get the best out of us and understand the stories we were trying to tell.
I remember a publication we put out called Pondering Change. And we presented a couple of different alternatives for what the organization could look like going forward. Do we stick with the location of the Agricultural and Industrial Museum and make that more of a focal point? Do we go someplace new?
The conclusion that was ultimately reached was that to allow the History Center to achieve its fullest potential, a single location such as the steam plant in downtown York would make the most sense.
It was right downtown. It was big enough to hold the program that we needed, and it was literally within sight of the Colonial Complex.
The challenge began with looking at what it would take to renovate this facility. We knew we had a $5 million goal initially. It was also pretty clear that in order to make this happen, there were going to need to be multiple funding sources. One, of course, would be a capital campaign.
When we looked at this project, we had to come up with a funding stack. It's a many, many millions dollar price tag to it. How do we get that kind of financing together? And originally, we had some places in that funding stack for two different kinds of tax credits, historic and new market. In the end, those tax credits didn't work out for us. So that was certainly a challenge then to come up with alternative funding to take the place of those two pretty large pieces of the original funding stack.
But probably the largest obstacle that confronted us was the unknown of the pandemic.
I think everyone listening to this knows that things don't get cheaper over time, they only get more expensive. And so the budget kept growing, and we had to keep asking the entire community to continue to support where we were headed.
And as a result, our original $5 million capital campaign goal had to be recalibrated.
But I think the board and Joan, we realized this was a transformational project, and it was a point where we had to decide, are we all in? And that decision was a resounding yes.
It is always heartwarming, amazing, the almost endless generosity of this community. It made that phase two just as successful as the initial phase.
There were a lot of great reasons to take the steam plant and choose it to become a new history museum, but that comes with challenges. This building has its own bones, it has its own stories, and it has its own bumps and bruises. And so one of the initial things we had to do was, could we increase the amount of space in this building by adding mezzanine, by adding floors? And that's a whole new challenge in an historic building.
Working in this building was tremendously challenging and tremendously fun. We exposed the things that hold the exhibit together. We didn't try and conceal them. We accepted a certain ruggedness, a certain industrial, practical quality. And we felt that that added to the story and complemented the building.
One of the great things that in bringing any building back to life is seeing it re-engage with its surroundings and its community. And so it was bringing the invisible of the building back to life. Part of it was that the story of this building and its role in the development of York through power generation was another kind of hidden story that a lot of people didn't know about, and it was nice to bring that out.
This museum is vastly different in that it draws people in, it gives people various experiences. It's designed to meet learners where they are. So people who go through museums very quickly, or those who take their time, or those who want to learn more.
We wanted to be very inclusive. We wanted this to be for everybody. How do they like to learn? And the fact is, everybody likes to learn in a different way. Interactive experiences, we know, get people's juices flowing, but you can't just have one solution fits all. You have to look at a broad variety of solutions.
We asked the community, what were they looking for? And we asked them to give us feedback to determine what made sense, what was a good story.
When we were talking about what would be included, we tried our best to make sure they were inclusive. We also wanted to make sure that everyone up to the present was included. This is everyone's museum, everyone's library and archives. They can go look up their families or local history.
My whole family is multi-ethnic, and I wanted to know how all those relationships happened. I've been able to go back the early 1700s and also back to slavery. This new center, it's an inspiration to me, so I hope it is an inspiration to everybody, that you will find the stories of your ancestors in the halls of the library here or the archives, because we need those stories and we need to have them here so the next generation can have those stories to give to their children.
The History Center provides that knowledge base, that reference point for everyone to have that appreciation and better understanding about who are we as a county, how did we get here, what are our key assets, what makes the culture of York County what it is.
So I hope that there are history teachers in our local high schools that realize what we have here and will send students in this direction. I came to the Colonial Complex as an elementary school student. And why I love history, I don't know that I can exactly explain it, but it started here. I know that opportunity is here now for students. I hope they come and take advantage of it.
We end the exhibits with your story, because ultimately this is an ongoing story.
Your story, our story. The reality is that the history of York County is everyone's story. They're all part of it.
While there's lots of individual extraordinary stories, ultimately it's the ultimate museum about community and about togetherness and what the people of York County can and will continue to do together.
And that's why I think once you visit this wonderful location, once you get a sense for what's here, you're going to want to come back, because there's always going to be something new to see, something new to learn, something new to appreciate.
So this place was designed for the community, for York City, for all of York County. It is your museum, your library, your archives. Everything we have collected over the years belongs to this community. We are so excited to have this in a place and in a way that you can consume it, enjoy it, and hopefully come back over and over again.